Thank you, Elandon. Welcome to Pittsburgh. I'm Chris Halleck with DK Pittsburgh Sports. So your addition is part of an overhaul of the linebacker room. Only Mark Robinson's left. Just how are you embracing that challenge of coming here and being part of this type of an overhaul at a position?
I'm excited. Every year in the league, not with just the Steelers, but the rest of the 31 teams, it's a lot of changes. So, you always kind of see it. My mind is just really set on getting in, earning the trust of my coaches, my teammates, and the city of Pittsburgh. And that's my main focus right now.
All right. Brooke?
Hey, Landon, Brooke Pryor with ESPN. I know that you were in New England for a while. You've been in Miami, and I know that Brian Flores isn't in Pittsburgh anymore, but what's your relationship like with him? And did you talk to him at all when you were like, hey, I have this offer on the table, I might go to Pittsburgh? What was your experience?
I have a great relationship with Brian Flores. He was my linebacker coach at New England, my head coach at the Miami Dolphins. We really built a bond. That's my guy. I was extremely happy when he was in Pittsburgh last year. I was extremely excited when he went to Minnesota and whatnot. I do think he knew, like, if the opportunity for me to come to Pittsburgh, that it was like no question that I was gonna go to Pittsburgh, just because I always admired the organization. I've always admired how they operated. I always heard good things about Coach Mike. I met Mike a long time ago at my pro day, and I've always said to myself, my wife, if I had the opportunity, it'd be hard to pull me from that one. And God don't make mistakes. I joked with Coach Mike and the GM and assistant GM talking about it took 7 years, but God timing is be right on. So I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm excited to be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
With your relationship with Flo, did you have any discussions about potentially going to Minnesota with him, or was it kind of Pittsburgh is the top option here?
I had quite a few options. But I can tell you when Pittsburgh came in the fold, it was kind of it jumped. It was kind of like, get it done. Let's push to really get this done to Pittsburgh. Like, that was my whole mindset. Once I found out that Pittsburgh was in the fold.
All right, Jeff.
Hey, Landon, Jeff Hathorn from KDK Radio. How would you describe the mentality with which you play the game and what you're going to bring here?
I don't feel like it's any secret. I'm a physical linebacker. That's just me, and whatnot. But I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna be a great teammate. I'm gonna get to know my teammates. Great guy in and out the building, coachable, and stuff like that. From the football side of it, I just don't feel like it's any secret. I kind of, going into my AV, I think people know, like, physical down here. I love to hit, and I feel like Pittsburgh style, fits me perfect. If you look at all the linebackers in the past, man, physical guys, I love it, and I'm just ready to embrace the opportunity.
Tim Benz.
Landon, Tim Benz here from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and ESPN Radio. Wanted to ask you, kind of building off of that last question from Jeff regarding the way the Steelers might be using you and Cole Holcomb. How do you think you guys might complement one another? And if you could maybe take us behind the curtain a little bit about how the signing happened, what with Cole going there first. I know apparently they talked to Leighton Vander Esch too, and you said you wanted to come to Pittsburgh. Were you all fretting about that with some of the other linebackers they had spoken with, or did you know that was part of the process?
Well, personally, I think that's just part of the process. I don't get too caught up into, the business side of it, from who they talked to before. Nobody know how people conversations go. You know, all I can control is how our dialogue went. It went great. I feel like Pittsburgh was a perfect fit, you know, and like I said, I'm excited about my opportunity. I'm excited to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I forgot the first part of your question. Sorry.
About how they're planning to use you with Cole and maybe Mark Robinson, some of the other guys that are still at the position.
I think personally, you know, I flew in, I signed, you know, met the coaching staff and whatnot, but we just haven't got to that point yet, you know, with scheming this whatnot. Eventually, obviously, we will with the off-season training coming in OTAs and whatnot like that. But right now, you know, it's just kind of one step at a time. Right now, I'm just excited to be a part of this organization. Like I said, my big focus is gaining my coaches and teammates' trust.
All right, Bo.
Bo Marchant from College to Pro. Thanks for your time today, Landon. When you were in the process of signing with the Steelers, did you talk with any players prior to that, and after you did sign, did any players reach out to you and kind of welcome you to the city and to the team?
Prior to me signing, I didn't talk to any players. After I signed, quite a couple players hit me up. Me and Mark Robertson ended up running into each other in the hallway when I was there. Me and Cole have spoken and whatnot. You know, it's been very good, you know, meeting them guys, and I appreciate they reached out and whatnot. And that, like I said, that's why I endorse so much about the organization and whatnot. And like I said, first and foremost, from my side of it, I just need to get in. They already have a foundation. You know, they're coached very well and whatnot. It's my job to come in and gain them guys trust, respect, and you know, it starts. I think we report out. I want to say 17th or 18th, but it started then for me. That's just a big mindset of mine. It's just getting in and getting mates and coaches to trust me.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Noah.
What's going on, Elandon? Welcome to Pittsburgh. Noah Strackline with Fan Nation. You said that you met with Cole, or you talked to Cole. Did you know anything about him before you got here? And do you know anything about the Steelers' new inside linebacker coach, Aaron Curry?
You kind of broke up a little bit. It was going back and forth with somebody else.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Cool. You said that you spoke to Cole a little bit already. Did you know anything about him before you signed? And do you know anything about your new inside linebacker coach, Aaron Curry?
Me and Coach was able to, he introduced himself to me in the hallway when I first got to the Steelers. We had a great conversation, excited to work with him and whatnot. Me and Cole, I knew of him. You know, I didn't know him from a personal level and whatnot, but, you know, I was soon after I signed, I was excited to, you know, get in touch with him. You know, we talked a little bit through text, and we're excited, you know, each other. Can't wait to get to work with each other, just like we're both excited to just get to work with every player on the team and coaches, you know, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was great.
Dale.
Yeah, Landon, I'm just curious. I know you have some fullback in your background as well. You done with that, or is that something you'd still be willing to maybe give a shot?
When I was in New England, it kind of came about. We had lost all our fullbacks, and you know, me, I'm a type of guy. I do anything for the team. You know, I'm a team first guy, and that role just came about. You know, trying to help my team and whatnot. I think we have fullbacks on the roster here, but I mean, like I say, if you know, I don't look to play fullback, but if my coaches need me due to, you know, whatever that may do, you know, I'm always gonna be whatever to help the team win, you know. So, but I think that's on the back burner for me for now.
All right, we've got Joe Rudder.
Yeah, hi, Landon. Joe Rudder with the Pittsburgh Trib. Do you have more familiarity on one side or the other? Is there a preference, you know, to play on one side or the other?
I'm I'm a defensive guy.
I meant a linebacker, left versus right versus.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Because the last, yeah, okay. But no, I don't have a preference.
You haven't played one or the other more or less throughout your career?
I mean, through my career, I've always played whichever one. Like, it's I don't know the scheme yet, just yet of how we do things here at Pittsburgh, but I just like to learn the whole defense from a conception standpoint. Offenses these days are doing a lot of things, shift, motioning, and whatnot. So, you can always end up on a certain side, so I would like to just, learn it all and whatnot. I've done that my whole career. So, that's why I really don't have a preference. It's kind of whichever I'm comfortable.
All right, Chris Adamski.
Hi, Landon. Chris Adamski from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Just, you've been in the league now for 8 years. That's a relatively short time in the history of the league or whatever, but a long time for a career. Have you seen an evolution for, inside middle linebackers being more involved or asked to do more in terms of in coverage than maybe in the past? And how does that because you have a good reputation. You've talked about being a downhill physical guy, or is that something, an area that you also can excel in and perform at?
Yeah, I think every year the league evolves into something else. When I was first coming in, there wasn't a lot of RPO. Now it's a lot of RPO. You're starting to see a lot of emotion, 72, 80% of each week from every offense now. It's not get lined up, maybe a tight end move, and that's it. You have tight end shifts, and you have fullback shifts, and you have receivers coming across. You have all that. It's a lot of movement now and whatnot that goes into it. So, you always kind of see the league evolve. It's just football, and teams get better. Teams do different things. So you have to adjust. That's just the thing about the league. From a Mike linebacker standpoint, when you look at it, I feel like from a covering standpoint, it's always, you covering, like, you can't say, oh, this play gonna be a run, this play gonna be, you don't know, But however, with the, shift and motion and a lot of stuff like that, your players just ending up in certain spots. So like I said, that's why on my when the last guy asked me about the left and the right, I try to learn it all so that I'm comfortable in either spot, and stuff like that. And like I said, I don't know the scheme yet and whatnot, but as I learn the scheme and whatnot, then, get comfortable with the system. So, yes, sir.
All right, Alan.
Hey, Landon, welcome to Pittsburgh. Alan Saunders from Pittsburgh Sports Now. A couple questions about your time in New England. What was it like to start out in the NFL on those defenses, going to 3 straight Super Bowls, playing with guys like Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower? How do you feel like that sort of made you the player that you are? And then what's the level of hunger as a guy who gets to the Super Bowl in his first 3 years and now, getting towards the end of his career to get back there?
A lot of guys don't really compliment guys sometimes, but the Dante Hightowers, the Devin McCourtys, the Patrick Chungs, that really molded me into who I am today, because I took certain things from each and every one of them, from a game standpoint, from a study standpoint, from a big time leadership standpoint. I seen how them guys went about business every day and whatnot. And I always show the utmost gratitude to them, because I was texting Dante yesterday, and whatnot, and, telling him how much I just appreciate him in my early career of helping me out and, getting me to this point, just being a very great mentor to me. And that's why, I kind of, with the younger guys coming in, I've always, told them whatever they need, because it was given to me, and whatnot. And just being able to play in them Super Bowls early, and you start to understand that it ain't easy, it's a lot that goes in that, and being a younger guy, really watching those guys and seeing that, it's a big hunger, to get back. And I think that's with anyone in the league. Every year we come in this league and we have one goal, and that's obviously to make it to the Super Bowl. But that goal, it takes one day at a time. It may sound cliche, but you have to focus on the day in front of you, because if you don't do that, you'll look too far and you'll miss a lot of small details. And then you'll be where you don't want to be. So I think with that, them guys really molded me into that, control what you control in that day. Just try to get that day better and just try to, keep stacking them, and then you'll be right where you want to be, and stuff like that. And like I said, coming to this organization, that foundation has already been laid. It's my job to earn the trust of my coaches, my teammates, everyone in the building, and whatnot. And that's why I say I'm just excited to be there, excited to be a Pittsburgh Steeler and whatnot like that. So, yeah.
All right, Mike DeFabo.
Mike DeFabo here with The Athletic. Elandon, if I could just take you back to your days coming out of high school and your recruiting, ultimately choosing Morgan State. What was it like? Were you a little bit of an under-recruited guy coming out of high school? And how did you go from a guy that started an FCS program to quickly becoming a captain with the Houston football program?
Everybody's journey is different. I was real, I caught a growth spurt, in high school, my senior year. I was really, really short. And so I was, really wasn't recruited as high. A lot of teams obviously wanted me, but, all these scholarships is gone. I enjoyed my time at Morgan State. I always tell people I appreciate that opportunity that Morgan State had gave me. After that semester, U of H offered me a full scholarship to come back home. Came back home. Appreciate U of H. I've always, rooted for them. We seen what we did and what we doing in March Madness. I feel like we're gonna be in the Final Four. But nah, man, my journey, was long. But as me as a person, and I think people will see that journey molded me. I don't take any opportunity, anything for granted. I embrace every day. That's just how I am, and stuff like that. And I think what it did for me, that path, it made me respect the game more. It made me respect how I go about business more and whatnot like that, because, any day this can be taken from us, and stuff like that. And I'm a big believer in God, so I'll just appreciate God for taking me through them trials and tribulations, because it's molding me into the person I am today. But I do appreciate all them institutions for believing in me and giving me the opportunity and stuff like that. So yeah, if I didn't get them opportunities from them, I probably wouldn't be talking to you guys today, going on my 8th year in the NFL.
If I can just follow up, you said you were undersized coming out of high school before you hit that growth spurt. How short were you before you hit that growth spurt?
So I was probably maybe 5'8.5", 5'9", going into my senior year of high school. Caught a big growth spurt, and that's when I got up to about 5'11", 6 foot. In that my senior year of high school.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
All right, Brian Bacco.
Hey, Landon. Brian Batko from the Post-Gazette. I just wanted to ask you, was there anything that stood out to you about this Steelers team when you guys game planned for them last year with the Dolphins, or any impressions that you still have from that Sunday night game in Miami?
I've been playing against the Steelers since my days in New England. What going to stand out is they're always going to be well coached. They're a well coached organization. They're anything you struggle with during the season, you're probably going to see in that game. It's always been a fight to the end. Like I say, well coached, they play hard. I've always admired the organization because, when you playing them guys, man, Mike TV all on the field with them, and they, even though you playing for your brother next to you, just to know, man, I'm playing for my coaches too, you know. And I'll be like, man, like he all on the field, like that's dope. And I'm on the other side looking at it, and I'm going against him. Man, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he fired up in there, and you know, I've always admired that and whatnot like that. And you know, they're going to be prepared and whatnot. So, yeah, like, you know, it's been a dope experience watching it from the other side of the football.
All right, Brooke.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with what you were saying about seeing, you know, the Steelers playing for each other and also their coaches, seeing the way Mike T is on the sideline. Is that unique, the way that the Steelers were playing? I mean, for guys like Mike Tomlin, the way that he coaches, just in the experience you've had in the league, how unique and kind of unusual is that?
I don't want to get into kind of comparing organizations because everyone is different. Just from that's just my opinion, you know, just looking like, you know, Mike T on the field, you know, you could tell like, you know, they like this, you know, true family and whatnot. It was dope to see, you know, and stuff like that. You know, not saying New England didn't do that, not saying the Dolphins didn't do that at all and whatnot. I'm just saying like that's what I truly seen and admired by, you know what I'm saying, Mike T. Even from this game, this past time we played, I think it was a timeout. And he walked on the field talking to the guys, you know, and stuff like that. I was like, I'm there like trying to score. So I'm looking at it, you know, because I'm trying to like get little details, like, okay, what he might be telling me. And, you know, he was just basically saying, like, let's go. Like, it's time to go. This is what we practice. This is what we do. This, da. And I was just like, that's dope, you know, and stuff like that. And it just caught my eye. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm a little biased because I've always admired Coach Mike, you know, and how he go about things. So, like I said, I told him my pro day 7 years ago, you know, come get me and whatnot. And as soon as we talked, the first time we talked, I said, man, it took 7 years, huh? But God got his timing for everything. And I'm just ecstatic to be a part of the organization.